What happens when you leave behind everything you've built and start over in a country where no one knows your story?
I came to Australia about 20 years ago, precisely. And let me say this, my journey to Australia is quite unique, quite different from most other people. And that's why I don't try to kind of compare myself, with some other people.
So what was it like for you choosing to leave Nigeria? I want to believe you were already settled in career and all that.
It was quite challenging. I had a good career while I was in Nigeria. I was probably say a mid to senior manager in Nigeria, migrating to a new country to start over again. Was quite challenging. And there were a lot of shocks I found. I'll give you a good example.
This is more than a conversation. It's a journey of resilience, reinvention, and the quiet courage it takes to begin again. From walking away from an established career in Nigeria to navigating the uncertainties of life in Australia, in this video, Mr. Ayo Folagbade shares the unseen realities of starting from scratch, the culture shock, the self-doubt, the moments that tested confidence.
First and foremost, we got to realize that, especially when you migrate at a mid age, where you're already formed, become the cultural world you have, it's more difficult because you are now moving into a culture that is also established. They have their own ways of doing things. You already have your own ways of doing things. What you don't realize is that when you come in, there's definitely going to be some clashes. Okay, in terms of this is how you think it needs to be done. This is how they come. Now, one thing you have to realize is that
whether you're a migrant, a professional chasing new opportunities, or someone standing at the edge of a fresh beginning, this video is definitely for you.
Good morning, Ms. Ayo. Thank you for joining me today on the Insider Secrets. I have heard a lot about you, your achievements in Australia, how you came many years ago and you managed to build a place for yourself in the industry. And I would just like to take from your experience, so what the migrants can learn, either migrant entrepreneur or professionals in their different industry. So when did you come into Australia? What was your journey like?
Yeah, look, thanks for the good job you did. And I do hope that some of the initiatives and some of the things they're doing is going to have a great positive impact on that next generation. So well done, and thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, look, I came to Australia about 20 years ago, precisely. I came there on the 1st of November 2006. And I came from Nigeria. My wife was already here. She was 6 months in when our second trip down to Australia. And let me say this, my journey to Australia is quite unique, quite different from most other people. And that's why I don't try to kind of compare myself, with some other people. My wife was born here when our parents came here to study in the 70s. So she's always had an Australian citizenship. And I didn't get to know the strength of that until we got married, and we just having a casual conversation. I say, yeah, I think I was born in Australia. So we're airport with the passport, she got nothing. But I think after a few months, we just saw these old documents, which just says she was born in Melbourne, and we decided to take it to the Australian High Commission in Abuja, Nigeria. And they verified it. I said, yes, so Patty, you are a citizen. And then if you were born in Australia, they automatically encourage to whether your parents are citizens or not. So, she acquired that citizenship. After a few weeks, she was able to get a passport. On the back of that, because I was married to her, I went back to the High Commission. And it was quite interesting because the guy was supposed to interview me to see whether they were going to give me the visa or not. And I walked in there. He said, what do I do? I told him I'm so right here, all that. And after on here, she still listened to the conversation. They said, where's your passport? I said, yeah, but I can give you my passport. And she said, if you have the passport, I'll give you a visa now. And so I go home, posted my visa to him in South Africa. Within a month, I got my visa to be there. But I didn't come here immediately. I still stayed back in Nigeria because I didn't know about Australia, and I didn't want to risk. And again, a new family back then. So it was not until my wife was pregnant with the first child. She said, "Look, you're not going to have a child in Australia." So she came to Perth, spent a few months inside the baby. I didn't come there. Then she came back to Nigeria. I told me how big Australia was and the rest of that. And yeah, there we are today.
So thank you for that. That's an interesting journey. So what was it like for you choosing to leave Nigeria? I want to believe you were already settled in career and all that. Leaving all that comments kind of fresh. What was the sacrifice you needed to make to come down to Australia? What was like for you in terms of your career?
Yeah, look, it was quite challenging. I had a good career while I was in Nigeria. I started my career in 1999 as a software developer, went into engineering support, then got into sales. And within a period of 2 years, I climbed in my sales career to become a mid-level manager by 3 years. By the age of 25, I was already general manager of sales. So this was a IT company in Nigeria. And by the time I got married, I'd already become a director of sales. So I'd say my career was pretty very fast in sales because we didn't have too many people who understood IT and sales. And I had the balance of the two. And so very quickly I climbed and I worked for, some very good companies from Labet Polaris to XNet, from Lisa, the first ISP in Nigeria. I was their sales manager for corporate services. So I was running originally was Penacot, because I spent more time on air than people at these days. And so it was quite big. And by 2005, I'd already become a senior manager in developer. Wow, earning a lot of money. And that was at the time when my start to leave Australia. And then, of course, I was quite comfortably. And so the incentives to come wasn't there. Even when my wife came here the second time, so we agreed that once she found a job, I was going to come. So the moment she got a job here, doing a part-time job at that time, she called me and said, "Hey, it's time to come." Until I wasn't coming again. And she said, "Why?" Just like most migrants want to do, I wanted to be a flying flyer.
Yeah.
So I told her I would come in for 3 months.
Yeah.
Fly back.
Yeah.
And that was what I wanted to do it. And of course, she reported me to the families that I was already breaking my promise. And they all spoke to me. I said, "You've got to go and meet your wife." So I had to come. So, I was probably say a mid to senior manager in Nigeria, migrating to a new country to start up the right game.
Yeah.
was quite challenging. And there were a lot of shocks I found out. I'll give you a good example.
Yeah.
So I came in on the first, which was on a Thursday, I still remember.
Yeah.
And by the second, which was on a Friday. Now, then we had a 1-year-old baby.
Yeah.
And my wife was going to work. Like I said, she had a part-time job. And while she was going to work, she called me and said, "Well, I needed to take care of the baby. I did baby food, I needed to change the client parts, I needed to give baby a shooter." Now, in Nigeria, and I never even need to use the teacher. Okay. We'll have people who will do the stays for us. And here was I, second day in Australia.
How did you do that?
In fact, it was like, as you say it, the two courts what I poured it up. I kind of, in fact, my wounds at that point completely changed.
Wow.
And I saw my wife walking out, and I was wondering where she going. So I pulled that back. I said, "Where are you going? You're going to leave me." That was a completely strange word. And I remember saying to her, "So you brought me to Australia
to be a houseboy."
To be a houseboy, because that was the first time in my life I'd never had a job. So it was a huge shock for me. If I remember her, when I went back from work that day, she didn't come back, and she went to my friend's house to talk to my friend, to come and talk to me, because I just didn't know where I was. And I remember him coming to the house in the evening with my friend to come and talk to me about the new world in which I found myself and everything. And I remember telling my friends that I don't think I can change. I'll change. But here am I changed. I washed the.
You're a different man now.
Our concept probably changed completely. And getting a job too wasn't what was easy. Now, because I'd been quite exposed. I traveled.
Yeah.
So there was this sort of confidence I had when I came
Yeah.
that I wasn't going to do not even a junior sales role.
Yeah.
So the first few roles I was going for were actually country manager role. Okay. And so all the applications I was doing on SIP at that time was what we had were either country director, sales director.
And how did that pan out for you?
Yeah, look, in fact, it was quite a few were successful because when they had that one experience on the phone, they liked, and I remember when clearly there was one of the tech companies, I think Juniper Day, were trying to set up an office in Australia for their websites. So they flew some of their directors, they looking for country managers. So I saw the role, I applied for it. I went through the first and second level of interview, and the third level of interview was to have lunch with me in Parramatta Day. And because I don't very well engage on the phone like I give. So I went and we had lunch, it kind of liked me. And it just kind of laughed. They said, so how long have you been in Australia? And I said, 2 weeks. That was the end of the
Oh
that was
my
the end of the
God.
interview. And they said, mate, we can't risk it. I walked back and later I also still remember a job for a mid-level manager with Microsoft.
Yeah.
I got to that, went to the first, second level of the interview. I went to that. I thought I was going to get the job until, of course, those letters you get, unfortunately, And so after about 6 weeks, I was completely discouraged. Okay. I was, because I felt that I had all the skills, I had all the experiences where there was something I may have that I didn't realize at that time.
Yeah.
And so, but I was going to do one.
I was it.
All right. So I got to know that when I got the first job I had. So there was a job I got to CA Computer Associates at that time. CA used to be a very big role, IT software company. They're now part of Broadcom. So they advertised a rooms for a commercial account manager. So I took the account and I went for the interview. So I did the first, second, third interview. And I remember after the third interview, the name of the lady who was hiring for the role was Felicity Cooper. She looked at me and she said, look, I hear good, but I still need the director of sales to check you out for cultural appropriateness.
Oh.
I don't understand what she meant.
Well,
But anyway, the second following week, I got a meeting with a guy who is now the CEO of Coffee, one of the IT sales companies, Michael Bosman, to look at cultural appropriateness. And I went in and we looked at it and I said, okay, you're good, we have the experience, but in the cultural appropriateness, we can work with that. So rather than give me a permanent role, they gave me a 3-month contract.
okay.
Checked, signed. I got in, and of course, it was quite challenging because I now realized that the culture was different, the behaviors were different.
Yeah.
But I thought what helped me was one, I quickly realized I was in a decentralized environment. And I quickly realized I had to go and then need to do. And I quickly realized that I needed to eat orders, which were key tools. So I did remember those times. Now, those are not the days in which you had ChatGPT or anything. I think the best way to get information was video. So when I went out for lunch and they're speaking about things happening in Australia, because I'm listening from here. So I didn't speak. Yes. Yeah. I didn't have conversation.
Yeah.
But I remember putting my phone on my laps while we're eating.
Yeah.
So when they ask any question on Australia, I'll Google.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, Australians are into their rugby, their footsie. I didn't know of any 12s. And they said, when they said the Rapidos and all these ones, I quickly go, what's the house? So to come over, I said, yeah, it's 2 So somehow I was throwing myself into the conversation.
Yeah.
And they were happy that, this guy is
making it
going to become part of us. And that's why they began to involve me in a lot of things. And I remember after the 3 months, they did an evaluation. Everybody said, that how you're being in the team is having those conversations. He's speaking that language and everything. Now from 3 months, they extended to 6 months. From 6 months, they extended the contract to 1 year. By the 9th month, they gave me a permanent role.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I got my teeth into my first professional maybe I must stay.
Wow. If I can pick you up on one thing there. So you talked about cultural appropriateness, getting into the conversations and all that. What would you advise for people who are moving in when it comes to that? Because a lot of people come in, they kind of sit back, they are quiet, and they find it difficult to like really integrate. So what would you advise when it comes to integrating and embedding yourself into the community there in Australia?
Yeah, look, I think, look, I came up with these thoughts a few years ago when I had against a not-for-profit going around investing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help students and people coming there newly on what it means.
Yeah.
So migrate to make money. First and foremost, we got to realize that, especially when you migrate at a mid age, where you're already from, become the cultural world you have. It's more difficult because you are now moving into a culture that is also established. They have their own ways of doing things. You already have your own ways of doing things. You know, what you don't realize is that when you come in, there's definitely going to be clashes.
Yeah.
Okay, in terms of this is how you think of wisdom done. This is how they come. Now, the thing you have to realize is that the people you are coming into their own culture, because you are coming into their own culture, and you don't expect them to change their culture. Sure. You have to change. Sure. Okay. So because I've seen a lot of migrants who believe that everybody around them needs to understand their trust. But that's the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah.
You have to understand them first. Before you now end the right, ask them to understand you. Okay. So, you know, that's the system. Otherwise, and the way it works is that if you have tried to force it for them to understand you first, they will isolate. And your chances, the opportunities are going to be limited. So you have to make effort in the first instance to understand, to embrace. Then that's when you might have the rights, to ask them to a certain ways to delay. Okay, that's the skill you have to learn. So I think just opening up myself, I realizing very quickly that I'm in a different culture.
Yeah.
And I've got to understand their ways of thinking as things happen. So, so I quickly mingled in different culture, the Italians, the Spanish, the Greeks, the Australians, how they do things, how they talk, some certain things. So I observed. I remember one of the first years meeting my wife. For 3 hours, I didn't understand what they were saying. And when they asked me for my comments and I spoke the way we speak in Nigeria, they didn't understand anything I was saying.
And then you thought it was the same.
So we're kind of looking at each other. I'm looking at them, exactly. They were looking at me, what are you saying? But however, I don't realize that, I wasn't going to force them to understand me first.
Yeah.
Then get to understand it. So I began, and you've got to do that. So it became intentional for me how I lived my life. So I made sure that when I came back to the house, I listened to their mirrors. I watched Home and Away, the program, which speaks about Australian culture. So there was not a lot of deliberate intent on my own part to begin to understand Australia as a country, Australia as a people, and the sort of things that they do, what's prevalent in their culture, their barbecue. So I really got my headache around that. I mean, it's very tough for when you get to the office on the Monday morning, they ask, how was your weekend? Now, you can't say that the only thing you went to is to go to church. You already isolated yourself.
Yeah.
No, but you tell them, I watch East 15, on TV, even though, some of them will do that in person. We had this barbecue. Those are the sort of conversations that they tend to relate to it. Okay. And so it was intentional on my part to make sure that I fueled my whole world with some of these activities, other than going to church, that they can also relate with. And I can also relate with them. So, correct. Yeah. So when I began to speak their language, after a while, they didn't see me as an outsider. They saw me as part of a system, atomic team. And I think that was what gave me a lot more opportunities to do in my career. So just realizing that it's a different country, living intentionally to understand their culture and to integrate opens up a whole world of opportunities and it doesn't change who you are. And I still tell people that I'm still a Nigerian boy, I'm still African, but I'm also very intentional the way I project that to them. Otherwise, if you project it wrongly, can it make sense? If you project it rightly, you can also make me a word of opportunity study.
Right. Thank you very much. So from what I hear, you really have to be curious and you have to be deliberate in putting yourself out there. So not just feeling, this is me, they should understand me and all that, but you need to try to understand them, try to understand and then be understood.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So how did you now? I know, like most times when migrants come in, most times the first advice you get is, "Oh, there are no opportunities for you up there. You need to start from the bottom. You need to maybe start, doing some little jobs here and there, so shift works, and to understand the culture." How did that work in your own case?
Yeah, look, it's a mindset thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you come in with the wrong mindset
No.
and you try to interface with the system, that can be guilty. But if you come in with the right mindset and also get intentional about what you want to achieve. And what I mean by intentionality, it's the capacity of a whole lot of things. It's not just, hey, I can do. Like, it's a lot more than that. It's really positioning yourself and learning new skills. And one of the things I used to probably say is that you've got to unlearn some certain things and learn new things. Okay, because there are some certain things that you've learned while growing up in your environment, in your job.
Yep.
Okay, that is normal. That is good. That will make you stop to the one culture.
Yeah.
I think the great boost in here is not going to take anywhere. Okay, so you've got to unlearn some of those things you've known.
Okay.
I began to learn some. I'll give it to the color example.
Yeah, that was right point.
Yeah. So in that type of environment, trust is important, but trust is not key.
Yeah.
Okay. In the sense that, you can get away with a few things.
Yeah.
Where you are not entirely truthful. And when you move with people's trust, well, we can still quickly again it. Okay. The Australian culture is very different. Okay. Trust is like a currency. People must be able to trust what you say. Because we say things, but sometimes there is it. But the moment you say there's a to make and they expect you to stick to it. Okay. So if you're a salesperson, for example, in a country as a salesperson, is that deal with a company? You're going to come it's like an exit. Your heart is over the company.
Yeah.
Okay. At the end of the month, your sales manager asks you, did you come here and say, something changed that anything but that one. But at the moment you say it, they expect how they go on your responsibility the plan. So how do you ensure that you put yourself in a position? Yes, things will happen.
Yeah.
But they expect you to also explain why it happened. Communicating very clear. Where we come from, we don't have to go into details, but they expect, and it must make sense.
Really?
You can't make things up. Because you make it up, the nature most trusting you. And that begins to sort of limit the opportunities that are open to you. So just knowing what is critical.
Yeah.
Okay, to a particular posture, what is most important to them, and ensuring that you abide by those things, okay, helps you to relate more appropriately with that, okay, and helps you to become more within the context of that environment we find ourselves. I'm not saying we don't have some certain things. You need to have some certain strength, right? It's just like, the other way around, you take the Western person to go back to Africa or to Nigeria. There are some certain ways we bring it.
Yeah.
For them to be successful, they had actually learn it too. And so I did the same thing. When we come in here too, we go to learn.
Sure.
Okay, we go to learn some stuff in the town. We go to learn some new things. I should have been very open to that. Now, where I still in a headlines limit themselves is getting toast up where they feel you don't need to learn anything. You can just come in. And I've seen it typically in Australia here, if you do that, you're really giving it to yourself. Because they have a process of isolating you. So starting help of jobs. And that's what they're going to do here. And that's okay. And I've had some friends, who have migrated from Nigeria back here. They started not to change. Okay. I didn't know that might not change. And you know what? I did have some talk conversations with some of those guys. And I said, go back home. Yeah. When you do that, you not do well ahead. Yeah. And if you took that advice, you went back to Nigeria, they're doing very well. For some of them still have their wife and kids here, but in Nigeria, they're already, directors top in Nigeria. But I bet you people here, they don't understand well. They are stuck. So what I tell people is, if you're a migrant and you come in here, I deploy also unlearn some certain things and learning things. You get out. Okay. But if you're open-minded, because one of the key skills the way is your ability to adapt, adaptability in the environment.
Yeah.
Okay. You can be an Odogu in Nigeria. They are coming here. If you want to marry your family, I must say pastor.
Yeah.
Okay, to succeed.
Yeah.
Keep that Odogu behind. Okay. You can think the Odogu here, but Odogu washed it. Odogu will turn the floor. Okay. Pastors will carry chair. Okay. Nobody will carry your bag before you here. We wash your own part.
And we do it.
We can still be Odogu, but just remember that the concept of Odogu, like in Africa or Nigeria, wherever you're coming from, is actually from the concept of Odogu may develop. If you are not ready to adapt, see, and you're not open to that, and you come in, you set yourself for trouble, both from a family perspective and the work perspective. But if you want to maintain that, stay back, and you will do it. Okay. And so, and this idea of telling you that you only succeed when you come to a new country or you migrate to the world side is relative. I'll say it's relative in the sense that, yes, the opportunity.
Yeah.
But you might not be able to make use of the opportunity because of your mindset. Okay?
Yeah.
You might not be able to. The opportunities might be there. And you can get a lot of people, like I'm telling, who are in Western world, they are probably better back in Africa because of certain attitudes and behavior that they have. Make them succeed more. That being okay, because you need new skills, you need new ways of looking at life to be able to maximize the passions that they're doing. So I think being open-minded and having the ability to adapt to the new environment in which I find myself without losing my identity.
Yeah.
As a Nigerian, as an African person, I think is what has helped me to navigate the system.
Valid. Thank you very much for that. I understand that, most migrants, when they come in, especially when you're coming from that like top executive level, from back home, when you get here, you definitely won't find a lot of people who tell you that, and you can't stuff another and things like that. Did you have any of such experiences, and how did you overcome that popular belief into going for the top, when you came in?
You've it's right in the sense because most of the time you can't translate that your position where you are at the same level for some roles, okay, especially for some professional roles, because one. Some of these jobs require human interaction. Okay. And if you've not had the right skills to have the right human interaction, maybe in the culture you find yourself, you go to that. Okay. So don't expect that because you're a manager, wherever you're coming from, you manage people, Nigerians, Africans, that the same skill is what is required to manage Italians. It's different, right? So it's a huge risk. And I saw that many more years down the line of my career here in Australia. So I stepped down. Okay, I was already a senior manager where I was in Nigeria or Africa. But when I came here, I started more as a tele-sales, tele-faucet. Okay. And I remember a few times in which I was being evaluated. I think my first 6 months evaluation. The interesting thing, I was selling a lot more than my colleagues.
Oh, really?
But my manager found that interesting.
Yeah.
Because she expected that because they were Australian, some of them were born here, they grew up here, they spoke their language.
Yeah.
They should be selling well.
Yeah.
And here was I, a migrant, jumping on the telephone and talking to them. And so, but why they did an analysis of my phone calls and why I was there. The result was interesting.
Okay.
They found that most people were buying from me. One, they didn't understand what I was saying about the phone because of my accent.
Okay.
But they bought from me because of my consistency and being consistent with it. I was never going to give up. Because in typical Australia, you talk to them, they try once or twice, they give up. Where I was last. We was okay. So me,
no giving up.
Nigeria they carry last.
Yeah. So
and so because So because they looked at the average number of times I made calls to get a sale was probably 6 to 7 times. And most of my colleagues were once or twice.
Yeah.
Okay. So because of just being consistent,
Tenacity.
the tenacity was why we were buying more from them.
Right.
Okay. So which is an attribute that we all had.
Yeah.
So I started look from that tele-sales. I succeeded in that. And let me say this. Know what works for you.
Know what works for you.
Okay. Know what works. Stick to it.
Mm.
All right. Because you see, there are some certain strengths and abilities we had.
Yeah.
That for that my mom have as much as we true. Well, okay. It is a good thing. I know it's working for me.
Yeah.
Stick to it. Well, and in my 20 years, I've always stuck to it. I'm not the kind of person that gives up. Or can be the kind of person that fights till I get the right answers. And that's what has really made this finish in my career. I'm brought into organizations where work comes together. 6 of us were hired and it's a talent. And I've always been the last standing. From the part of organization the which there's been fire-wise and music. Now everybody will not have new diets, but twice. In the initial company, we had about 7 sales people. I translated to the other company that bought us.
Yeah.
We were from 7, it came down to 3. And the company got bought over a day. And I was the only salesperson who said to the next level because I just fight.
Yeah.
And that has helped
Okay.
in my career. So yes, you have to start low. And it's not because you are not skillful in the job itself.
Yeah.
But there are also so many other variables like dynamics that are at play that you need to learn. Okay. Alex, it's not demeaning. It's just like you need to, especially when you are migrating at a mid-level area position. Okay, you got to learn some of the things. Okay. And it takes time to learn that. So like in the company where I joined as a tele-sales, within 6 months, I became a middle-level manager because I actually learned skills. But it's required to manage people, to manage resources, to manage teams and all that. So
In Australia.
So I saw that I needed to learn it. And I knew it was not until after maybe a year, and I saw the reason why they said that they needed to check whether I was culturally appropriate. So 6-7 years later, I found myself, I am to do kind of promotion. I'll give you a good example.
Okay, please do.
One of the companies I work for, we're trying to hire for an enterprise solution architect for one of the key projects we have for one of the big banks.
Yeah.
And in conducting this interview, it was a lady whose family was from, I think, Ukraine. But she had been here for about 13 years. And we're hiring a guy who was from US, Louisiana to me, from my side.
Okay.
And technically, this guy was very good. He ticked all the boxes. I thought we should hire him.
Yeah.
But after the interview, they asked for my view, and I said, yes, it ticks all the boxes for the student. I had a hire. But this other lady, was spent a lot of our time in Australia. This is why the fact that originally she was going to be paid. Said, no, they can't hire him. I said, but why? Because he asked me on a question. And this lady told me, Eliza, she said, it's not culturally appropriate. It's too risky for us to put him in front of the tent. I said, why? And she said he kept on using the word man for me. Man for a lady in the US is a respectful word, so you like. But when you say man or madam here in Australia, it's something completely different. Right? Let's realize that. So when you use the word madam here in Australia, it's actually somebody who organizes pimps or prostitutes.
Okay.
So you never use the word madam or man for a woman here in Australia. It's not culturally appropriate.
No.
Like has a different meaning. She was livid. And because of that, she stood from it and said she wasn't going to be hired. And that was what they mean hired her. Okay, because that needs a thing. And you say, well, that's just an isolated. No, it's not isolated incident.
Yeah, because if you go use it for a client and then the client feels like,
I also seen it.
How would he call me mad?
Yeah, even play out in action. So I used to have an Australian who helped me when I came in. So talk about migrants when they come in. So we set up a cultural integration team shelves to help migrants when they come. So I get this Australian lady who is a very big friend, who's the part of us to help them. So when migrants coming, I write that too. So she used to having work with American care then.
Yeah.
So I asked her to hire people on the volunteer basis. And I remember one of the times she came up to me and said, I don't like to work with these Nigerian daddies began to buy. I said, why? He said, they said the word migrant for me. And man, I like it. God doesn't associate realize what it means. I mean, in the head of positive things. So I had to talk to the other team. I said, please, don't use this word.
Yeah.
So,
and unfortunately for someone coming back from home,
it's word of respect.
It's word of respect. You know, without the man, you feel like you're being disrespectful to someone who is, should be respected.
Correct. So when you write your application and you say, dear madam, here in Australia, don't do it.
I used to do that. But later, I eventually found out that here they use more of hi. Hi, and then the first name, hi. Initially, I used to use dear sir, dear man, dear sir, / man. But eventually I figured out.
You can still use ma, but even then I try to avoid it. So look, there are some certain words that it's normal for us to use in our context.
Yeah.
But try to understand what these words mean. Can be very, very different. And those are some of the changes, adaptation that you need to continue to do from time to time before you can be culturally active. And interestingly here, you use the wrong words in Australia here. There are many type of people that will call you aside and correct you.
No, they don't like to.
They don't conflict. Yeah, they just think you. They just pack you aside. And that's why a lot of people say, oh, they discriminate against me. They don't like me. No. It's just some certain things they are doing that they don't like.
Yeah, and they don't want to confront.
And they don't want to confront you. So it's now on you to really uncover what those things are and begin to make those little adjustments. And like I said, if you're not to making this adjustment, go back to Africa. You will really tell you.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's very, very insightful. Okay. From all you've been telling me, I can see that you had a lot of career progression as you were working. So can you take us through your career progression journey? What were the things that helped you in those career progression? What helped you to reach those heights that you eventually got to?
Yeah, look, I think having the beliefs that you're as good as any other person around, it's really very important. And because I found myself in meetings or conferences where there are about 2,000 people who are there and I'm the only person I call. But being comfortable in that state, I think but that takes a lot of experience. That takes a lot of psychology to be able to overcome that and be strong enough and stand your boss in those circumstances. I mean, present, okay? Because there are a lot of people who show up and are not present, okay? So just having that strength and that confidence to be present. Now, initially it's going to be stop, but over time, you've got to learn to be comfortable in that. And don't say it. I'll give you a good example. There were many years ago, I was asked by the CEO of one of the stars organizations there. They do software ERP for manufacturing content code. I didn't mention they were a company now. And CEO asked me, because we were one of their service partners, he's asked me to support them to do a presentation to win a deal for one of the big two shopping retail shopping in Australia. And this was in Melbourne. So I had a Melbourne manager. And so he asked me to go try and be the presentation to the CEO, and they said, this is the company about 20 there.
Wow.
So I flew from Sydney to Melbourne and got to pick me at the airport. At the moment this guy picked me up at the airport and he realized that I was a person of color, I just saw his confidence in the cute thing. I had to see that because it wasn't told. So eventually we went to the office, all the executives came in, okay? And we had about 19 of them. So the 20th person who was the head of HR was easy. So the CEO of the company apologized and said, he's still going to join us.
Yeah.
So, asked for us to introduce ourselves. So from this other company, we have this manager, and we have some of the other staff, and then nobody of for them.
Yeah.
And I was about the sixth person to join them. And so when the CEO of the other client company introduced all the other staff, okay, and he asked this other guy who was leading us to introduce all the other for the first 10 years, okay, because he just didn't want him to have a say. Well, that makes sense. And I saw that the CEO for the other company saw what was going on.
Yeah.
So they started the presentation, and I was supposed to talk about, because we were more like the cloud partner, the hosting partner for the application.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I had a cut and needed to present. So he wasn't going to allow me to say anything because it showed that this person, now, kind of interesting thing that happened.
Yeah.
When, after about 30 minutes of the presentation, the HR director, and one of the major components we were going to decide on was the human resources management, because of like, HR was big. And the head of the HR director walked in. Oh, not interested, okay?
No.
He was a guy from Falcons. Like, yeah.
Really?
So he walked in, and the CEO now introduced him and said, that's, I think his name was Chisel, who is the head of HR. So he was hired from London to come and help them start by their HR.
Yeah.
And then I introduced him in a big way.
Yeah.
It was when this guy realized that the head of HR was a black person, that was when he now talks to introduce me.
Oh, wow.
But the CEO saw the term.
Yes.
And he didn't say any single thing. At the end of the day, I was so demoralized, like he would talk about my own art. And I remember walking out of that meeting in the evening. I didn't end up saying anything.
Yeah.
And I called the CEO and Sydney. I said, this is what exactly happened. And I think you should fire this guy straight. So you know what, he was fired yesterday.
Why?
And they lost the job because they put out one new job.
Yeah, because the client would have seen that. I'm like, no, we can't work with this talk.
Correct.
Can't work.
Correct. So I'm not saying there's no discrimination, I'll be lying.
Yeah.
But having the ability to live through and live above those discrimination. Okay, so having had these experiences over the years, the reality is that I don't even see it.
Like
I'm just myself.
Yeah.
I don't even see it. I just there.
Yeah.
I just refuse to do that. I do what I have to do. So, I'm very objective in the way I do my work. I've asked people different faces, probably the word I've asked them to need help. I've asked them to bold them. You are not good enough. So I'm not going to do that myself. I've had the opportunity to speak, with 3,000 people audience who have not my follow. I think knowing that you have something to bring to the table, offer, I think it's important. I bring it your own way.
Yeah.
You don't have to change. Look, my stage was probably, I still don't know how to fix Australia. Yeah, I think so. But I'm confident about that.
Yeah.
Okay. But when I was lacking, so that I also learned, let me also say this is, because especially when you enter into a new company, what you're now aware of is that some of the people in that company are probably working with an African for the very first time in their lives. That's right. Excellent.
Right.
So the men understand you. The ladies speak.
Yeah.
So please. And that's why Australians, sometimes they think it's embarrassing when they tell you to repeat yourself. So they rather not ask you. They don't understand the jack of what they say. But they don't want to ask you to repeat yourself because they don't want to embarrass you.
They're just like, yeah.
But you begin to see their conflict because they didn't understand you didn't understand that nothing gets happened.
Yeah.
So what I encourage you to do is that when you're moving to a new organization for the very first time, so try to speak slowly. So that they can get to understand actions.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're saying. Okay, it takes time. But be intentional about just be slow with them.
Yeah.
Okay. Over time, they'll get used to your accent, get used to the problem you're sticking, and that will help, those interactions better. It's just be mindful of that.
I think it's a no-brainer because even when you're new and you're also listening to them, when you speak really fast, it's hard to understand people from other cultures. Sometimes when they speak fast, so if you put yourself in that same shoe, when you speak fast, okay, it might be difficult. And I think maybe sometimes asking for clarity, like feel free to call me back if you don't understand what I have said. could open the door for more conversation. I think,
Yeah, absolutely. But back to the point I said initially, they are not going to speak slowly because I need. Because there's an assumption that you are coming in, you probably have worked elsewhere. You should understand the way it is. It's actually you that will now take an attention out to speak slowly so that they can get to understand you. And also make intentional effort to also try to understand it. You know, my wife had an experience many years ago where she was working in the back and she kept on saying, they need to understand me. And she kept on having a lot of friction, challenges, until one of our managers, who was married to a South African who was Australia, called her and said, single squatter. Your struggle is that you want us to understand you. I said, I get it because I'm married to a South African black woman. So I get it, but they don't get it. Okay. So what you have to do is to get them first and then get it. Okay. And that's very, very important. So having that mindset that you must understand it, they must get it.
No.
It's not going to take you anyway. Get them first. When you get them first, you have the rights, you earn the right to ask them to get to. And bring out the strengths that you have. They won't appreciate you. They will love you. How you kind of get to a point where your color doesn't matter. It's culturally in the bacteria because the seed of capability and the embedded. I'm not going to know about Australian piece that if you demonstrate the fact that you get them to understand them, they will open up your world of opportunities.
Wow. Thank you very much. But they still, you guys don't have soul. They don't. About what you said, it's not. I was a beautiful one with you. What's up? Anyway, there is the. Okay, so if you were mentoring a newly arrived migrant, someone who is just coming into the country with all their dreams and aspiration, what 3 things do you tell them to focus on to settle faster and build a successful career in Let's Train?
1, understand your need, new environments. Okay. And quickly identify what you need to make, how well you need to make. Okay. Secondly, prepare yourself to more education. Especially because there are going to be gaps in your skill. Okay, so quickly identify what you need to improve of and cover the gaps in education. It could mean my wife had to go to TAFE, and at some times I had to do some studies like TAFE. I'd have to go to their school to learn, a few things, just to learn, do of myself. And in any organization, especially when you work for a global organization, but be a lot of soft skill modules. Okay, in fact, church, one of the things I tell people is that your soft skill is much more important than your educational qualification there in Australia. Soft skills, look at that's why it's in the education that are different. A lot of these kids of old school here, they've already been taught, a lot of things are soft skills, presentation, ability to have good conversations. We were not taught, we're just the book styles that measure. They have been taught. And that's why, one of the key things that would make you grow up is ability to present yourself. You can be a good salesperson, as I realized I was, but might not be able to present yourself well. And you can see someone who's not performing, and yet he speaks about the little success he has. And it's going to be multiple.
I'm blowing it up on the bottom.
So I don't know how to blow myself up even when it's a mediocre, average result. Because they've learned.
Yeah, and that part of it is I learned about that in Australia because from the way we grew up, you're kind of modest about your achievement. You don't want to talk about it too much. You just want, your work to speak for you. But here I realized that we need to speak.
You need to speak for yourself.
Give us a lot more insight.
We need to speak for yourself. And you need to be able to articulate. So let me say this. In Australia, they are structured in the way they train. So when you are saying something, they follow you step by step. So it's a journey you take them to. So, okay, I have to be clear, structured with those journeys. Don't just blast things around. Don't pick it up. Okay? Tell them, sometimes you understand the way that this is the situation. This is what I did. And this is the result it's achieved, and this is the value it's brought. So if you follow those ways of presenting things, they'll follow you. Okay, and they'll clearly understand. And they'll open up a whole world of opportunities for me. I believe you are capable. And that's why really in Australia, it's not really your educational qualification that gives you the edge to measure the person. It's the ability to talk to yourself. And that's why you can see somebody who just has an HSC, they call me director, you can have a PhD, and still work under that person. Now, it's very normal here because he has some additional soft skills. So, soft skills are key there because I see a lot of people, they want to have GST, MSc, national class. You can have all that and still not be able to progress very well. Okay, focus on those soft skills. They are very, very critical, especially your ability to communicate, your ability to present yourself, the ability to then very articulate, your ability to have an analytical thoughts for doing things. You see, Australians hire people based on what you can bring on until you experience. It's not your educational qualification. They'll throw it aside. With it. Keep your ability. And the last thing I would want to say is that, so what makes you unique?
Okay.
And don't think your color is a disadvantage. You can actually teach your own advantage. I'll give you a good example. There was a time I was being hired for a role in our organization.
Yeah.
And they asked me, they said, how would I make it? And I told them, I spoke with my wife and said, this will be, it's a big organization. Why don't you make it? So I told them, this is the amount. I mean, it's quite significant.
Yeah.
And when I told the HR lady, she said, no way.
Yeah.
And she said, there's no way they're going to be able to pay. She said, I've been hiring for this company for about 10 years. They have never paid any partner or manager. That's the knowledge. And I said, wait, go ask them first. So she went and came back and said, they have a pay. So the next day I met our own vice president in Australia.
Yeah.
And he was quite impressed with me. So I felt I made an application and have the right to add this level. So the HR called me back again. I said, have you changed your height? Go to, I said, no, I came today. I said, when I said, I'm doing this handmade work. Yeah. So I asked also, I said, all right, 10 years that you've been hired as to put. Have you hired anybody that recycle wood?
Hired.
I said, think about it. So she said,
I can bring the same value.
Okay. So I said, so why should I never take this side? Because if you're not hired anybody that recycle me.
I am there.
All right. And you're right. I made the conversation to go to something that is unique about me and the value that I believe I've been able to bring based on the conversation. So I didn't look at myself as saying because I'm like, I can't be doing the value. I knew I could because I've had that conversation with the vice president. And so I stayed. And she went back, presented to the vice president who I spoke to.
Yeah.
And to her surprise, he approved it. Okay. And this lady said, wow, this is mind-blowing. This is crazy. Blah, blah. And I remember when I joined, everybody was screaming, how could they have paid this guy? But after a year, we knew why they're giving them because I now had to deliver back to that guy. Again, what I did in that company. Okay. So believe in what you have. Believe in what makes you unique. Believe in the value that you are able to bring. And I've continued to develop yourself, continue to evolve. Don't say because you join an organization, you stop developing. I'm in the IT world. I know what's happening. I attend conferences and read a lot. I try to keep myself abreast of what's happening in the industry. And in the state of what you think, I'll end up with this. Many years ago, I think 12 years ago, a company called Human Trouble at that time in the IT system, in their strategy, in the bullshit of consolidation. And it was a Japanese company, remember? And the CEO had called her company to say that he needed somebody to come and help with them, with their strategy, their roadmap together. And I was sent to go up. When I got to his office, they taxed me, the secretary, to go to the back door into this bunker.
Yeah.
So I sat down with him and it came in 6 of his executives who were attached to them. I did not see him, he just started laughing. Okay.
Why?
Yeah, seeing Christian. Yeah. And he laughed so much. Like, that was not the time where there was political correctness. He said, look, I know this may not be right, but I just need to say this. I did expect that I was going to meet a practice. And I quickly joked, and of course, it was offensive, but I quickly joked. I said, well, here you are. But I knew that I needed to make him see the love like, oh,
Yeah.
so, and I was prepared for that. It's try, and I was structured. What are you trying to achieve? What do you want to do? Where do you want to get there? How do you want to get there? And I shared my own experiences of how I think he can get there and what he can do to be different. And I brought my experience from working in different organizations. You know what? It was one of the guys that gave me one of my biggest businesses ever. And we're still very much today.
Oh, wow.
So let people see beyond your color. Let them see what value out. And I'll be as my brothers, we as black people have what we can bring on the table. But most of the time, we are our own enemies because we don't see the surface of our code. But when we learn to see beyond that and look at the depths and the value that we can bring to develop that, bring it on the table, you know, world and other stuff.
Very cool. Wow. Thank you. I'll ask you another last question. I just want to be around mentoring, around also the role that people with experience, people who are coming for you, than plays. Was there anything like that for you? Wow. Whether in a journey, streets or something, information someone gave that's helped us track things for you? Was that?
Yeah. Look, thanks for asking that question. I'm going
to ask you to distract me now. I'll just chat to them. Okay. So, from your experience and throughout your journey, was there any role that maybe it's mentorship or community or friends have played in your settling and growing your career in Australia?
Yes, and thanks for asking that question. Look, I do have mentors. Like before I even moved to Australia as a country, I did have somebody who had been here for a while, who I've seen about succeeded. He came back to Nigeria at that time on holidays, and I traveled. I remember traveling from Lagos to Africa to go and see him. And just to ask the question about Australia before I came home.
Okay.
And when I started thinking, he looked at me and said, what do you do? I asked him, I do IT. He was based in Perth. My wife, the only place my wife knew at that time was Perth. So he looked at me and said, you know, there are no opportunities for you in Perth. Is that extremely available?
No. Okay.
And he also took me about some of the things I begged to do this cycle. And that helped. So when we finally migrated, we didn't go to Perth. We came back to see.
Okay.
And this is the beginning of the success in pop that I've done. So having that person who has gone ahead.
Yeah.
And because this person has also been here longer that week, and has succeeded very well.
Yeah.
Every single year, I still take my family 1st of January every year, whenever I was in Australia, where I get 16.
No.
And he shares this stuff. And I listen to him. I stayed days with him.
No.
And he pours himself. And he was the one who told me about the things I needed to make, things I needed to change, how to interpret Australia, how to interpret. He is a psychiatric doctor, so he understands. Okay, so he gave me through those journeys of how to read people, okay, and how to interpret what people say and all that. And that really helps a lot. I think that up to now, I still continue to relate from him. I will still speak from time to time.
Sorry.
That's one gift of mentorship. And also, let me tell you, when you also come into an environment, you have people who are living that environment, who were born in that environment. They know a lot more than they know how things work.
Oh.
So I also have a mentor who is an Australian, okay, who tells me, mate, this is how we do things here. Okay. And I learned a lot from that. Okay. I had a lady who was a friend, and I also had a guy who was new. So don't, have migrants who are succeeded, mentor you. Also have people who are born here, who understand this to stay. Because there are still some gaps that migrant person does not have, which people will have. They will help you. So in terms of, investment strategy, legal strategy, and all that, if you cherish it, how you begin to cover a circulation, how you begin to think about the board, even your kids and everything, they be help. So having those broad-based mentorship structure system all around you, I think sort of helps. And then also say this lastly, open up your network.
Open up your network.
And I'll say this, I'll give you a good example. I think about 6-7 years ago, I was speaking with one of the consultants. I was from India.
Okay.
And this guy was very good, was brilliant. Okay. And he was telling me And they've been in Australia for about 15 years and I tired. And they told me, said, I did realize the value of networking also my 10 years here and it has really affected me. I said, why? He said, you didn't know that a lot of things about people know. He said, I restricted my network to my people. And that he said, now it's take intentional effort and build a broad-based relationship. And most of the jobs that are being advertised are already taken. Well, no, I'll stick with it.
How does that work?
I'm speaking, yeah, because most times they already know who they're doing. It's just by process that they've been asked to advertise. Okay, I'm going to be speaking with the company, with the check of how organizations tomorrow, as we're speaking for a role, directorship role, which I was interested in.
Yeah.
And when I saw it being advertised by that company, it can happen. I'm just called another person that I knew to work in that like maybe where I works with.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm interested in you, so being advertised at your company and say, yeah, when you find out about it, call me the next week. I said, hey, the guy watched the advertisers is a very, very good friend. And I've told supposedly about you.
Yeah.
I said, don't apply yet. Well, okay, we're going to take this shoot the other candidates. And I'm meeting with the guy who is hiring tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a chat.
Yeah.
He said, if you like the job, I would also like you to work in the process. Now, when I checked LinkedIn, over 50 people have applied for this. All right.
Oh my God.
Like I'm saying, most of the time, that's the way it works. So,
Yeah.
a strong place to work and not machine. Okay. Intentionally building goes for industry events, know people. Okay. Don't think that just your skill or your experience alone can get you the job. No, it doesn't work that way. It's, and especially I was speaking with our HR recruiter recently, and he said he stopped advertising rooms. He said, why? He said, because everybody uses AI to write the application. So anybody qualified. So how do you get it? He said, no, we're not doing the competition. We're going to pick people. Like I'm telling you, it has more credibility there. And that's when the organization you work, don't burn the groups there. And so forth. Okay. Like this organization, the person who is helping me now was somebody who have worked together. He knows who I do, knows I've capable. We had if I was my boss, I'll use this to another organization now and they say, I've told him about you, and he said, we really want him to be this account. He didn't like the journey.
Oh, I see. What?
And so, it's on your network. Don't joke with your network. Don't think your skill alone is about your behavior in this event. How you lead this organization, like the impression you do. Okay. And if you have been distrusted in your way, you'll not become a culture. So, and these are the things you need to show you rats. Okay. I love you the right network. When things come up, you can leverage on that network to do it all. You see, one thing here is that people knew with people.
Yeah.
Okay. People know with people. When an exec most the defense organization, he's not comfortable to work with people he has to work. So he puts them along. That's when it works. Okay. So you have not been good on that network. So that's why you need to extend your network beyond your music community. It's hard. It's fun.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go. That's a lovely one. We've covered most out of it. So is there any other thing we would want to say? Any last word and what?
Well, the last word I want to say to any incoming migrant is be competitive. Okay.
Be competitive.
Position yourself to be competitive for any role. Okay. Don't be your own enemy.
So what of that?
Yeah, don't look at yourself that you are inadequate or you can't.
Okay.
Okay. Just have it at the back of your mind that you can become even the prime minister if you choose to. The other thing is, what does it take to be there? And you do it.
Okay.
Okay. Very, very important. So just having that in your mindset matters. And learning all the skills, seizing all the opportunities that come your way. Be intentional. You also strategic all the time. From our own perspective, having God as your foundation, I think helps. One thing, it's in Africa that you brush up and we will need to God talk about it and kill.
Yeah.
Whatever I become, it's the God factor is the principle and the foundation matter in that. With everlasting is faithfulness, is goodness, and if you can't engine. And that's what I'm going to say to everybody. Like, if you think you don't need one here, it's a big step. Because how do you deal with discrimination? How do you deal with failures? How do you deal with inadequacies? There are so many things you've got to deal with. And you need God to help you to walk through those processes. That's the I know. And make sure you surround yourself with good people, nice people.
Positive minded
people.
Go getters.
Yes. Who are sent to work for.
Yeah.
If you surround yourself with mediocres, that's what we end up with.
Oh, thank you very much. Ah, okay. Thank you. Yeah. The only one we didn't touch was the aspect where people tend to limit themselves in terms of what they can give. So more or less like we're relegating ourselves to some certain kind of jobs, security, care work, and all that thing.
All right, let me you want to ask?
Yeah, definitely.
You can put a question and I can
give the answer. How do I say it? Okay, so when you talk about expanding your network, the kind of people you work with, how do you get yourself out when you move into a country newly? Probably the first set of people you're meeting are telling you these are the only opportunities available for you. Maybe in a particular set of jobs, let's say nursing, for example, you can't rise above that. This way, you just have to restrict yourself to. What do you say about that?
Well, look, and that's where I talk about the fact that sometimes don't restrict yourself to getting direction and mentorship from fellow migrants like yourself. They are useful for some certain things because they come in before you eat. There are some areas they have sourced in there. So there's some information that they can give to you that will yourself. But also get information from people who have been in that system, okay, who have lived to that system, who were born in that system. They also give you a different perspective. Okay. And based on that, we can now navigate yourself by around what you think is best for you. Okay. Yes, there are some certain rules and jobs that migrants are taking to survive. But in line bar, it might not offer the best value for the potential. Okay. I'll give you an example. If I had known a few things that I know today, 30 years ago, I would have done something different. Because like what? I'll give you an example. Australia is built around properties. It didn't, those things when I came, I used to struggle. How would somebody go to school, a good school, and go and become an electrician or become a builder? Because where we come from, those are artisan jobs who are no work pays for the US or the Western society. Well, but when you come to Australia, you find out that they are the guys that actually make more money. Okay, and they live in well, but most of them will start job by 7, but by 3 they are gone for the day.
Yeah. And
the kind of money they make. So 95%. When I got somebody during COVID, I remember when I asked him to come and do some stays in my house and was instead of charging me, I think over $1,000. And I asked the guy, I said, mate, this is more than, and it was going to be a 2-hour job. I said, mate, this is more than what I earn in a day or in a week or something. He said, yeah, you are the brilliant guy who went to school. We have the dog guys who went to pay. I think you can make more money than us. Said, mate, if you don't cut pay for it, then leave it.
Yeah.
Okay. So just understanding. Okay, so don't think it's a particular way.
Okay.
Expose yourself because there could be many other ways. If I have gone back to pay to one still the electrician, I can assure you. I mean, out of some of the electrician friends that I have, maybe they're quite successful and they don't work as hard as I work. Okay.
Yeah.
Because this system is a different system. So in every environment, I'm not saying the same thing with America.
Yeah.
Because of course the property in America is not the same with the UK. Where this system has its own unique opportunity.
Yeah.
So just coming in and not just restricting yourself to what fellow migrants are telling you. Also hear what is your overarching environment thinking about where the opportunity. And I know a lot of Nigerians, very few Nigerians now who are now going into this poverty and they are doing very, very well. even more than people who are taking some of the other jobs that I call the migrants.
Yeah.
And one last thing I will also say is that when you come to a new culture, explore. Okay. And don't just, one of the things that helped to me in the first 4 years of working in Australia, I did a lot of retreats about I went to all the capital cities. I went to, Melbourne, Brisbane, very intentional. Just want to soak in what it means to be in Australia. What are the experiences in Australia? What are people doing? At least we don't want to be exposed to this entire land. Yeah, so going on vacation is where we observe. But it's part of educating yourself. It's part of getting to know what you're doing and opening up your mind to the bigger opportunities that are there. Okay, so this is as a logic, but I say a lot of people always because they are reaching out to you're helping yourself. Okay, you are helping yourself. When we did that for the first 5 years, next time when we have the Australian passport, that's to my family, every year we're going to something like an Australia because we need to go and learn about other people in other countries. We stand out, being all around the world with the family, we're actually just exposing ourselves. And you know what? I'm enriched because I can see the different, values each culture brings. This year when Japan added, when I was in the place called Osaka, and that's the interpret place. Well, the funniest thing, you would expect that, in Japan, because they used all these cars, Toyota, Mazda, all of these cars, all these big cars in Japan. Now this first shock I had was that the Japanese don't use most of these cars.
Oh, really?
You would expect them to see these big that. One of the most popular car that I saw in Japan was this small Suzuki. This one we look at, we call it Nigeria.
Yeah.
That's almost have been used.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, in Osaka, I found that there were more bicycles than cars.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even when the Japanese sell to the whole entire world,
they've done something.
One of the key things that I found with them was that sense of contentment with whatever they had.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody was at peace. I could feel the surrealness in the environment. Everybody was kind of happy and comfortable. So I began to learn that you can even be contented without having much and be happy with life.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to when you come into a way you have to have every single thing to be happy. It changes your perspective. So as you travel around, as you see other people, it begins to challenge some of the things that you always have that stuck space in life. And it helps to reaches you. So even when you don't have, you're still happy. Sure. Okay. Because other people, you can see that people who are. And this helps. So just open up yourself, to new things where information moves up. Don't just travel to another country for shopping. So observe.
Go and learn to observe.
Look at the history.
Yeah.
What makes this point you made the app? What gives us sense of this back? And if I start studying this with me, to just help you to become a better person.
Well, thank you very much.